About a year and a half ago, I did a review of this Alpicool C20 where I went over all the features of it, and it was my initial impression because I had just bought it. And now, about a year and a half later of continuous use, I wanted to show you how this is held up and let you know the pros and cons of living with an Alpicool C20 long term. So first off, I just want to say that this has been a very reliable refrigerator. It's been running for most of the last year and a half non-stop, with the occasional downtime where it gets unplugged or I just happen to run out of power or something like that. But for the last year and a half, it's kept my food cold. I haven't had any issues with the mechanics of it. It just runs constantly. It keeps the temperature it says it's going to. What more can you really want from a refrigerator? That's exactly what it was designed to do, and it does it well. One of the other really good things I like about it are the size. So for one person, this is perfect. It's big enough that you can fit all the groceries in it you need for about a week. Any more than that and it does start getting a little bit cramped, but for one person, a lot of food starts going bad after a week anyways, so this is really the perfect size. Another advantage of this small size is that it's really easily portable. You can just pick it up and take it wherever you need to take your refrigerator. I've changed vehicles a number of different times. Sometimes it was rental vehicles, sometimes it was going back and forth between my bus and a car. And every time, it's really easy just to pick it up and move it. Even completely full, it just doesn't weigh all that much. That makes it really ideal for just being portable, for pulling it on and off of shelves. When I'm using it in this car, I don't really have to move it around much, but in some of the other vehicles I've driven, I've had to move it just to get it open, and it's super easy with this. Another advantage is it's actually really quiet. I don't know if you can tell right now, but it's actually running at the moment, and you probably can't hear it over there. I mean, I can barely hear it over here. And I'm sitting right next to it. In other cars, I've had to have this Alpicool sitting directly next to my head when it was running, and at night that can be a little bit annoying. However, in this car, it's just in the back of the car by my feet when I'm sleeping, and I can hear when it turns on, but I've lived in apartments with much louder refrigerators than this, so it's definitely quiet enough for general use. You can have it in the vehicle with you while you're sleeping, and it's not a big deal. Okay, so let's talk about some of the downsides that I've had with it. For the most part, it's been really reliable, and there aren't that many things to go wrong with it. However, there are a few. First off, this USB port right here is almost useless now. So it looks okay, but what happened was I used to use this all the time when I lived in the bus, and I didn't have enough USB ports. And after plugging things in and out, even just a handful of times, this USB port ended up pushing inside, and if you try to plug anything in, it's detached from the housing and it'll actually sink down into the refrigerator itself. And when that happens, the power shuts off, and that's not a good thing. So I basically can't use this USB port anymore. I don't know what happened to it or why it broke, but it's basically useless. And that means I have one less USB port. It doesn't matter so much now that I have a Bluetti power station and a car with a ton of USB ports in it, but that was really disappointing when I lived in the bus. Another problematic area is this power cable. On this end here, where it plugs in, this piece here that actually plugs into the refrigerator popped out. I'm not going to unplug it now to show you because I might break it, but this completely popped out of the refrigerator one day, and you can see all the wiring behind it inside. I managed to get it back in and plugged in, and everything's doing okay now, so I'm just kind of leaving it the way it is. Also, in a similar area, you can see here, this is supposed to be a strain relief where this cord is supposed to go in. Yeah, that stopped working basically immediately. It just doesn't do enough to actually hold the cable, and so that's probably part of the problem here. Even though I don't move around the refrigerator that much, and I'm really careful with the cables when I do, I suspect there has been a bit of strain put on this end of the cable, and that probably caused the problem here, and it's just a little bit disconcerting having that kind of loose and not very well protected. So that has been an issue in the past. On the other end of the cable where this plugs into a 12-volt outlet, this plug here is pretty bad. So I think it's so large because it has a fuse inside. I'm not really sure though. But what happens is when you plug it in, it seems like it's okay, but it's actually super loose. And this isn't the receptacle that's loose. All the other 12-volt plugs I have fit very tightly into there. It's just this plug here. And when you're driving, it tends to kind of come loose and fall out like that. And then you don't notice it for an hour, and during that hour your food has been slowly warming up in the refrigerator. So that's definitely a bad thing. And I may end up actually replacing this at some point because it is really annoying. So another kind of bad thing about this refrigerator is it doesn't have a ton of insulation on it. So out here in the Pacific Northwest, it doesn't get super hot most of the year, so that isn't a huge problem for me, but it's something you have to be aware of if you live in a warmer climate or you're planning to travel to a warmer climate. Apparently there are bags that you can buy that will add insulation to the outside of the Alpicool, and it leaves all the vents exposed so that it can cool the compressor and everything properly. But stock, you can tell it doesn't have a ton of insulation. So despite those problems that I've had with the refrigerator, it's actually been a very reliable unit, and it's used very little power. It uses about 35 watts when it's running, and it doesn't run all that often. And for the price, there really isn't anything else on the market that's like this. It's just an excellent value, and if you need a small refrigerator for your vehicle, just get an Alpicool. It's the refrigerator to get. So in about 3 weeks, I'm going to go on a longer trip, and obviously this refrigerator is going to come with me. It's been with me for the last year and a half, and I think it's going to be great on that trip as well. So if you're interested in buying this Alpicool and want to see all the features, click on this video where I show you everything you need to know about buying this Alpicool.